Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. So I have been thinking about the possibility of natural epics coming to the Composer app at some point, even if that is many years down the line, because we all know that the app gets less updates than Geometry Dash. But in the end, we never know when the next update is, and I think it'll be like that for as long as the game is around. Anywho, this video is just for fun and is nothing more than my ideas that I hope end up true if we were to ever get natural epics. So how I decided what sounds each epic would make is based on how the common and rare variants sound, along with how the epic itself looks. I would say that I'm pretty proud of what I have for each monster, so I'll be excited to hear what all of you think about my ideas in the comments below. And for clarification, I will not be making predictions for the natural vocalists or any of the ethereals or seasonals because they don't have a rare counterpart at this moment in time. With this out of the way, let's talk about the predictions. Epic Noggin was one of the most difficult ones for me to predict because the common and rare Noggins are fairly different. The common variation is more contained, for lack of a better word, while the rare variation has a bunch of different miscellaneous sounds. So I tried my best to combine the concept of both, and after a bit of thinking, I've landed on a variety of woodblock sounds. A woodblock is an instrument we really don't hear much of in the Composer app, or in the MSM franchise as a whole for that matter. So it would be very fun to hear different sounds of a woodblock be represented in a monster like Epic Noggin. Afterwards, I kind of thought that it could also be a Cajon drum, also known as a box drum, so if you don't know what that is, just search up box drum sound and then you'll be able to find plenty of videos of people playing it. So yeah, I just wanted to share that I had another idea, but honestly it could go either way, you know? Both are good options, either a woodblock or Cajon drum, so yeah. So with that being said, I'll let you all continue with the video. If you're unfamiliar with a woodblock sound, I will be playing a clip of it being played. I will do this for all of these predictions so that you all know what I might be talking about when I mention a certain instrument or sound. Despite Epic Shrubb being categorized as a vocalist, it has a rare form, so I thought that it would only make sense to include it. Now, for this monster, I know that the majority of the community dislikes this monster because its form of supposed beatboxing has a gross side to it and isn't anywhere near good beatboxing standards. So I was thinking that the epic form could redeem the title of Shrubb just a little bit, and be made up of better sounding beatboxing. With this being said, here's an example of what Shrubb could and should sound like. Now we have Epic Pango, another pretty difficult one to think about. For this one, I took inspiration from its icy design and decided to take more of a sound effect route with this Pango variation. What I had in mind was sounds that we've connected with coldness and stuff, similarly to the ones we hear from the Cold Island Epic Wobox. In the previous two Pango variations, both have had two different sounds, so I have decided to go down the same path and I have found two sounds that this epic variation can play. I can't really describe them, but they're just like icy sound effects for lack of a better word, so with that being said, here is the sounds. Epic Quibble was one of the easier ones to think about. One of the first things you notice about Epic Quibble, other than how ugly, I mean how good it looks, is its wooden piano, which instantly screamed marimba to me. It could also be a xylophone, but it could very likely be one of these two options. I also thought about chimes because I would really like to see that type of sound in the game, but I knew that either a marimba or xylophone would be the more likely option simply because of those wood keys. Here's how both instruments sound. Next up is Epic Drumpler. This one was fairly easy because there was a recognizable trend between both the common and rare counterparts. Both common and rare Drumpler play a form of snare, so I thought that it would make sense to continue the trend with a different snare type. The type I decided was a marching band snare because they have such a unique sound to them, and I think it could sound really good in the Composer app, especially with the rim clicks and all of the other sounds you can make with a marching band snare. With that being said, if you're unfamiliar with the sound, here is a clip. Epic T-Rox was another interesting one to think about. With the common T-Rox, it has your typical dirty sound font, and then about the same thing can be said about the rare T-Rox as well, but it is more on the mechanical side of the drum sound. So using these observations, it took a bit of thought, but I shortly landed on a breakcore type sound font for the Epic T-Rox. If you're unsure of what that is, there's a good chance that you've heard of it somewhere since its style is fairly popular and has been used in Your Best Nightmare from Undertale for any of my Toby Fox nerds out there. So with that being said, here's what it sounds like. For Epic Pummel, I had a hard time deciding what sound I was going to use for it, because I was going back and forth between two. But don't worry, the other sound will be used for another monster later in this video. With that being said, I decided to give Epic Pummel a reverbed orchestral bass drum sound. It just seems fitting for a Pummel because it's big mouth drum thing, and it would be nice to have a big drawn out bass drum sound in the Composer app. Here is a sample of what it might sound like. I was in between two ideas for Epic Clamble, either a crescendo crash or a ride cymbal. In the end, I decided to go with a ride cymbal because I can see more potential with a ride cymbal than I can with a crescendo crash. Anywho, having a ride cymbal could mean many more opportunities to make covers and originals sound a lot better, so you know I would be all for that, of course. Since ride cymbals are basically a mix between a crash and a hi-hat, Epic Clamble would be about the same as a common Clamble, but, you know, as a ride cymbal. But anyways, if you're unfamiliar with how a ride cymbal sounds, here is once again another clip. Epic Bowgart was a no-brainer for me. I instantly knew that it had to be a harp, because harps are such a beautiful instrument, so it would be so cool to see it be introduced into the Composer app. To me, it just makes complete sense to have it be Epic Bogart's sound, because it's another stringed instrument that sounds very nice. Here's what a harp sounds like for those of you who do not know. Epic Thumpies were also a very easy decision for me to make. I landed on the tongue drum, an instrument that creates a very calming sound. I chose this because after seeing the Thumpies go from a timpani in their common form to a steel drum in their rare form, it made sense to me to have the Epic be mildly similar to both, while also being unique and different. I love the sound of tongue drums in general, so it would be very interesting to have it in the Composer app. Here's what a tongue drum sounds like. If you remember, a few monsters ago I mentioned having to decide between two monsters for Epic Pummel, and now that second sound is here with Epic Congle. The sound is a timpani. Now if any of you know your instruments and you know your MSM monsters, you might be thinking, aren't the Thumpies a timpani? And the answer would be yes. So then why did I say that Epic Congle should be based on a timpani? I think this is because I would like to see a higher range of the timpani be present in the Composer app. Thumpies' high notes aren't crazy good, so having a timpani redemption arc would be really nice to see. Here's an example of what some good high-pitched timpanis sound like. Now we have another fan non-favorite, the Epic Scups. Since Scups is a mix of gross sounding wet toys and suction cups, I thought it would make sense to continue with the water sound effect theme. So, with that being said, I wanted to find sounds that aren't nearly as repulsive as the other Scups sounds in the common and rare forms. Since both forms had 3 different sounds, I wanted to stick with that trend, so I took some inspiration from the Water Island Epic Wellbox, another Epic Wellbox inspiration, I guess. What I chose for the sounds were a water droplet, bubbles, and a wave crash. I can't say that I can see these being used very often, but you have to admit that these sound way better than the common and rare Scups. Epic Reedling was another monster which was a no-brainer for me. Common Reedling plays the flute, rare Reedling plays the bagpipe, and it would just make sense for the Epic Reedling to play something in the same genre of instrument, while also having its own special sound and feeling. With bagpipes being commonly associated with Scotland, I thought it would make sense to have another reed instrument with a specific vibe to it, which is why I went with the pan flute. The pan flute is popular in places of the world such as South Africa, Central Europe, and Asia, so it felt like a great pick for the Epic Reedling. But outside of why I think it would make sense, it would also sound very nice, and it would give us another flute variant to play around with in the Composer app. Here's how it would sound. Epic Deedge was a difficult one. I was able to come up with an idea, but it's probably the weakest one on the list if I were to take a pick. I knew that common Deedge was an electronic drum kit and rare Deedge was an electronic synth sound thing, so really all I did was combine both ideas and decided on a pitched electronic drum kit. It's basically just rare Deedge but with a different sound. Since Epic Deedge's design is so abstract, it was hard to use that to help with my decision. Anywho, here's the sound I came up with. Epic Riff is one I'm unsure about when it comes to my idea. It definitely seems possible, but it just doesn't feel like it's Riff's personality. What I did to think through this decision is similar to a lot of the other epics I decided the instruments of, which is by observing how the rare form varied from its common form. For Riff, it went from an electric guitar to a bass guitar, so that led me to believe that the epic would be another form of guitar, one that would have its own unique sound. I first thought of an acoustic guitar and kind of a ukulele, but since a ukulele is already in the Composer app, I wanted to try to think of a different stringed instrument in the guitar family. And in the end, I decided to go with a banjo. You can probably guess why I was a bit unsure with this, because when you look at Epic Riff's design, I bet you wouldn't think of it playing a banjo. but thinking about it in the sense of having a banjo in the Composer app, it could be really fun to mess around with a sound like that. I can't say there's a lot of songs outside of like country music that use a banjo, but it would definitely be nice to have a new instrument in the guitar family join the rest of the monsters in the Composer app. And the final epic we will be talking about in this video is Epic Shellbeat. This one is pretty straightforward because of how simple it is, but hopefully in a good way. By observing the changes between the common and rare shellbeats, we can see that rare shellbeat is just a common shellbeat with reverb applied. So I took this idea and repurposed it. So for Epic Shellbeat, instead of adding reverb, I decided to add echoes. For any of you who don't know the difference between reverb and echo, reverb makes the sound ring out, while echo makes the audio repeat while constantly getting quieter. This might be difficult for the Composer app for two reasons. For one, a monster's notes cut each other off when the next note is played, so at very fast speeds the echo really wouldn't do much of anything. And secondly, it would be ideal for the echoes to be on time with the song, but that could be difficult if the monster handlers don't know how to make the tempo changes in reaction to the song's tempo. But saying that they do know how to do that, then we would be good for the most part. Anywho, here's an example I made if you're having a hard time hearing an echo effect. But with that being said, that would conclude today's video. As per usual, do those YouTube things like liking and subscribing and stuff like that. If you want to share your 2 cents about what sounds you think or want the epics to make, feel free to comment them down below. With that being said, I just wrote a 2,300 word script, so I think I'm gonna I think I'm gonna go lay down now. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one.
Bam, bam.